Hello, everyone. This is Scott, host of Ruminate This with Agrarian Solutions. We truly believe that any organization is only as great as the people within that organization. In this special Meet the Team series, I will sit down one-on-one with every team member and learn more about their passions, interests, and what drives them to strive for excellence every day. We hope you enjoy getting to know us. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Ruminate This with Agrarian Solutions. I'm your host, Scott Zaire, and today we are going to continue our Meet the Team series. And as always, the greatest form of flattery is for in a podcast setting is for you to enjoy our episodes, subscribe, and share with a friend. So feel free to do that if you're enjoying getting to know us here at Agrarian. With that in mind, as I said, we're continuing our Meet the Team series. And if you haven't listened to any of our episodes in the past, I am on a mission, for the rest of my life to get rid of that term business to business sales. I think it's a farce. I think it's really person to person. I've said it over and over. The young lady here with me today that I'm about to introduce, she's laughing because she hears me say it a lot. But you show me a business that's ever done business with another business, and I will show you the amazing men and women behind the scenes that actually make it happen. And I'm not sure, Miss Amber, if there is anybody on the team at Agrarian that is more behind the scenes than Amber Ramirez is. I'm going to dive into that a little bit. But Amber, before we get started, just give a quick who are you? Where are you from? What do you do for Agrarian? And then we'll dive into some of the fun stuff in a few minutes.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you so much for this opportunity. I never thought that I will be here sharing kind of a little bit of my story or background with you, but yeah, thank you so much. And well, I am from Venezuela. I was born and raised there. But now, like at this very moment, I'm living in Moscow, Russia, because I'm visiting a friend that I met online a few years ago. So that's like what's happening in my life right now. Ambar Ramirez, Venezuelan girl. I'm 28 and now I'm working as a virtual assistant. Right now, I'm the mastermind behind the podcast editing of Ruminate This. I'm a very friendly person. I love meeting new people, and that's kind of why I came up to be here right now because networking is something that I'm very passionate about too. So, this friendly part of me was very useful, a very useful skill for this. My journey started online almost 5 years ago when the pandemic hit. Before that, I was teaching English as a second language there in Venezuela. But then life happened, and here we are.
I got to tell you, it when you mentioned the mastermind behind the editing, I'm going to throw a shout out to one of the other masterminds, Jamie Peth, now known as Jamie Props. But I'm going to throw a shout out to Jamie Props. If you guys don't know Jamie, if you go back and check out the Meet the Team episode where she interviewed me, that is Jamie. And Jamie is, I would say, a master facilitator of people. And so, Amber, could you describe a little bit for our audience how Jamie brought us all together?
Yeah, well, I started as a virtual assistant 2.5 years ago, and she was my first client, my very first client that I started to work with. And she is the most incredible person I have ever met because she's very straightforward with you and she helps you a lot to reach whatever goals, whatever thing that you want to achieve. So she's kind of like a mastermind, like you said, because she's so good at asking the right questions, directing you where you need to go, telling you like, hey, what if we test this or what if we do this instead of this? And she really is a mastermind and she's incredible. So after I started working with her and her business, she introduced me to you and the whole agrarian team, but we were doing some other stuff for another project that you are still working on. And then when the podcast came around, I was actually very interested in this podcasting world. I started to learn a bit more about editing, video editing, sound editing, all of these things. And then the podcast opportunity arrived, and I was like, yes, let's do this. So she really was the one who connected me with you guys and with other people that I'm very fortunate to continue working now. But yeah, my journey started with her and hopefully will continue with her being part of my life.
Yeah, Jamie has been a blessing to a lot of people. And yeah, there's a great story there to tell. So, Amber, you find yourself editing a podcast called Ruminate This with Agrarian Solutions, talking about cattle nutrition, livestock nutrition in general. Your background, you mentioned you were teaching before you became a VA. Like, did you grow up around cattle at all? Like, did you know anything about cattle before you took on this project?
No. When she mentioned about working with you, I was like, okay, I don't think that I fully understand this industry, but I'm very happy to just learn something else. That's something about me as well. I like to learn new things, maybe not something that I will use as a skill in the future, but just as a hobby kind of thing. And learning about this has been very, I won't say useful, like, okay, I know how to talk about cattle and mycotoxins and stuff like that. But it has brought interesting insights into this industry that has been like very nice to learn. Just learning with you has been fun.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. I think when you grow up within the industry as I have and now spend my professional life here, I think everyone in the industry would agree that we do always have the consumer in mind when we're doing things. Like we want to make a healthy food, a nutritious food, that kind of thing. But what's been interesting to learn from you is the consumer side of it, not growing up around livestock or around cattle, right? Would you say that you would almost take it for granted that like you ate today and like there was food there and you ate and there's no further thought of where it came from or how it got there? Is that fair to say that's kind of how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've talked about the podcast and my job with you guys, with other people, with some friends and family too. And we have had these discussions because we really just don't think like, okay, this milk is here thanks to all the men and women in the farms doing this with the cows and X, Y, and Z. So it's actually nice to know how much work it is behind all of these products that we consume. So yeah, we really take for granted all of this process from having the cows to getting them pregnant and all of this process that comes through. And then when we have the meat and then when we have the milk and then other products. So it's actually very interesting process and something that people, I guess, just take for granted unless they are born, raised, or maybe they just are like introduced to this world as I was.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for one, being open-minded enough to take on this project, and two, sharing that insight because this industry has a truly amazing story to tell. And I'm pretty blessed that I get to be a part of helping tell that story, and now so do you. But I'm going to peel back a little bit of my trepidations going into this a little bit, Amber, and get a little vulnerable with you. So, when we decided to do this podcast and the recommendation was to have you do the editing and the publishing and stuff like that, which believe me was a huge weight off my shoulders because I was not looking forward to having to edit the podcast. It's just,
Yeah.
to me, it's like pulling teeth. But in the back of my head, I'm like, so Amber, who as far as I knew then didn't really spend any time in agriculture industry at all, she's going to be able to just listen to the podcast that I record and edit it. And like, yeah, I'm going to have to like re-listen to it and approve it, or suggest any other tweaks. But it wasn't probably the first episode with Mark Carpenter. That one we didn't really dive into a lot of like livestock talk. But episode 2 and 3, where we discussed the DTX research,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is where I'm going to have to listen really close and I'm going to have to send her a lot of stuff because she's not really familiar with it. I, you don't know this, but the first episode I recorded with Dr. Kevin Zemba, the company he works for also has a podcast. And so we were talking. He said, well, who does your editing? And I was like, okay, get this. This lady Amber out in Venezuela who didn't grow up around agriculture, she's like has blown me away because you send me the edited copy for me to proof. There's not a lot of stuff that I ever have to make you take out or re-edit or go back and change, like maybe a word or a phrase here or something that, because I can get off on a tangent. You know what? Throw that out. It really isn't important. You do an amazing job. Like I was so blown away with how you knew what to keep, what not to keep. I kudos to you, hats off to you, shout out to you, like whatever the thing is. You've blown all of us away. So great work. Great work.
Thank you. That's wow, wow, a very beautiful compliment. Thank you. I mean, I actually, being very honest, at the beginning I didn't know what I was doing because it was such a different topic from what I was working before. Then I was like, okay, I'll do my best. I really try to just listen carefully and try to make all of these interview or discussions or conversation to work, to have sense and all of it. And well, given that also English is not my mother tongue, I'm a Spanish speaker. So yes, I was very nervous. Sometimes I still am, but yeah, I'm very happy that it worked out because you really don't know in the end how things are going to work out, if they will work out or not. So knowing that it did and that someone asked Dr. Kevin said something like that, I'm very honored. Thank you.
Yeah, they agrarian would have a hard time convincing me to change editors now. You're stuck here as long as I have a say, which I'm not really sure if I
Oh,
do, but I'll politic for you either way.
thank you.
So I wanted to ask, your perspective of agriculture has probably taken a dramatic 180 shift from, strictly a consumer, maybe taking things for granted, right? There's food here, we get to eat it, whatever. It comes from a grocery store, a market, whatever. So I look at your perspective on this next question as being unadulterated, if you would, or at least not biased. But for the perspective that you've gained so far, just really just through editing our podcast, what to you stands out as special about the agriculture industry at this point?
Well, because I've had all of this time editing, listening to all of your conversations with all of these incredible people, I will say almost what everyone has said before me. And it is the people. I mean, it's so incredibly amazing, all of the work that all of these people do behind the scenes, to get the rest of the world food that they can consume and that they can give to their families and all of that, while also taking care of their own families. So it's something special about this. I will say it is the people. I don't know that much about like the animals part of stuff, but
Yeah.
just knowing the amazing effort and love that people put into this industry is incredible because not everyone wants to work with animals. Not everyone loves animals. So having these people that they see the yes as kind of like a product because yeah, some of them are consumed and some of them just produce like give us the milk and all of this. Others just really take care, like very good care of these animals. And I think that's like the love for the animals that I enjoy the most in one part, and also how they are so well like ingrained, or at least they try to be as close together and helping each other. That's something that I find very incredible as well. Like they are so together in everything. I don't know if I explain myself well, but yeah, it's
You
been like this
you did.
closeness between everyone. Like they want to help others to achieve their own goals or whatever project they're doing with their farms and all of this. And I think that knowing agrarian as a company has been incredible as well. I'd never heard of it before. And being able to work with such an incredible team like you are, it's just a blessing as well. Even if I'm really on the other side of the world right now, or when I'm back in Venezuela, we're not close to each other that much, but it's still a family. And you make everyone feel part of the family, part of the team. We're all together in this. So the support, it's something that I find very nice. Yeah.
You mentioned the sense of community, right, within the egg industry.
Yeah.
And just to fact check myself, I quick checked. So in the US population, less than 2% of our entire population, what, 330, 40 million people, less than 2% are farmers or ranchers. So
Mm,
those are the people making the food, right?
yep.
And so that's obviously a small starting point, but the sense of community, the sense of closeness, of caring was on full display recently here a couple weeks ago in my hometown. Not hometown, but not far from where I live now, excuse me. We had a pretty major snowstorm. We got, depending on where you were, anywhere from 2 to 5 feet of snow in a period of like 48 hours.
Wow.
And a friend of mine who owned, I think, somewhere around 100 head of beef cattle. Okay. And this is not a beef cattle area. This is dairy. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of dairy farms here, but I've seen it in this situation that I'm going to describe. I've seen it with barn fires. And I think every farmer across this country and probably everywhere else too will tell you the same thing. So when this guy's barn fell down and crushed a number of his cattle and killed him, who do you think showed up to help him get the snow removed, get the roof removed, locate whatever animals were alive? There were still some survivors. They rescued 30 some head, and it was all of his neighbors, and not
Mm,
just
the
his
community.
it was the dairy farmers and the beef farmers working over there, and it was, they all had to go through the 3, 4 feet of snow to get there, through blizzard-like conditions to drive there, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, working in temperatures less than 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was amazing. I've seen that over and over throughout the years. Somebody's barn catches fire and all of a sudden there's 150 people there helping them move
Mhm.
cattle. Farmers opening up their barns to allow more cattle to come in and they'll just milk them for you and help you get rebuilt. And it's amazing, which is why we're doing this podcast today, right? Because
Yeah.
it's about people.
Yeah.
It's about
Yeah,
people.
it is.
Um,
Yeah, this is a community that that will never leave you alone. It's not something that you will do on your own like all the time because there will always be someone there willing to help you. In this case, in this very difficult situation, some other case at least to celebrate also whatever you have achieved. And that's something that I find very beautiful about this community.
yeah. So, Amber, shifting gears just a little bit, I'd like to, dive into more of the people conversation. So, I've had some wonderful mentors throughout my life, especially my professional career. Do you have like one or two or three people that really stand out that have made an impact on you personally, professionally? You don't have to name drop if you don't want to, but if you have, what have they done for you that was so special?
Well, yeah, a few people come to mind. I mean, I'm just 28, so my career is not as long as other people's. But yeah, I've, at least in the last years, I've met incredible people that I now consider mentors. But the first one is my mom. She has been an incredible human being since the beginning of her life. She's really, really like a legend in my family. I mean, I have two more sisters, and she raised the three of us by herself with the help of family. Of course, there's always, the grandmother and some of the aunts and stuff, but the big heavy weight, she carried that. So my mom is a very strong person. I learned a lot about resilience, loyalty, justice, the power of service to other people. And
Mm,
maybe I love this job that I have now of helping others, in this case with podcasts or whatever other tasks that I get to do, because it's like service, and I love doing that, and I learned that from my mom. She's a very strong woman, and she still works with the church and helps people whenever she can. Like, she's the one that if anyone has a problem, an issue, if they need anything, she will be there to help them. And that's something that I got from her, and I'm very grateful for all of the hard work that she put during my life, my entire life, until now. She's always, taking care of everything and giving us a space to grow. And that was also very important to my sisters and I, but she was always there. So we knew that she got our backs. Like, whatever happened, she was going to be there, and she's still there. And I'm very thankful for her because she has been my greatest personal mentor for me.
That's amazing.
Professionally, yeah. Professionally, I'm very grateful to Jamie. Jamie is still my mentor now. I mean, we already talked a little bit about her, but she's just, I mean, I cannot thank her enough. I'm very sure that a very big part of me being here and being able to do all of the things that I'm doing now is because of her. Because, like I said, she really helped me direct my life, or in this case, my career in the course that I wanted to go. And she also gave me this strength, inner strength to like, okay, you have to be honest to yourself and say, okay, this is not connected to my values. This is not something that I want to continue doing. So just say no and you can move on. You know, you can pivot, you can change things. You don't have to stay in the same path all the time. You can just change whatever you're doing and start doing something else and see if that's a better path for you. She gave me a lot of courage. I think she is an inspiration to me, and I'm very thankful to call her my mentor now because she's an incredible human being, incredible person to everyone around her. So I'm very happy to have her in my life. And I want to also talk a little about other clients that I work with. Her name is Tasha Smith and her business partner Karen Hammond. Oh my God, they are two of the most spiritually guided people that I've ever met. And my spiritual journey also took a very big jump because I learned so many things, you know, gratitude, the power of prayer, and all of this. And that's something that aligned with my values as well. So I'm very happy to also have them as some kind of spiritual mentors for me, although we did a lot of just work because I work for their business, but their business is so spiritually involved. They involve a lot of spirituality into their business, and that's something beautiful, and you don't see that all the time or with everyone. I'm really happy to have met them as well. I'm not working with them now, but I'm very happy that I got to see them and learn from them as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a range of experiences from personal, professional to spiritual. I mean, that's an amazing trio of mentors for sure. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, so if somebody's listening to this, Amber, and they can't identify a single person in their life that they would maybe classify as a mentor, what advice would you give them?
well, I'll say just start with you. Like, what have you done now that makes you feel proud of yourself? Like, whatever goal that you have achieved or whatever thing that you have accomplished, let's start with you first because a lot of things that we have already achieved, they also came from us. So, even if I have great mentors and I have a lot of incredible people behind me teaching me things, I also know that I've been like kind of my own
Yeah.
mentor, and somehow I've also been my own cheerleader. I've also gained my own strength for like from within. So if you feel like there's nothing, like no one has been there to help me, or I don't think that I have like a mentor that I can look up to, or someone that I can ask questions when I have them for X, Y, or Z, just start with you. I will say that start with you, and then you will also notice, like, okay, this that I did for myself, I recognize that this other person also did it for me at another time. I think that we all have these little guides all along, but sometimes we just don't know, like you said, how to recognize them. So maybe if we start with ourselves first, then we might start seeing that same traits, those characteristics in other people as well.
I think that's spot on. And I think along with that, right, you have to allow yourself to be a little bit vulnerable.
Mhm.
There's an old saying, right? Birds of a feather flock together. So if you're out there and you can't really you don't really have somebody that you would call a mentor, like Amber said, start with yourself. And I'm going to say, start by looking in the mirror
Yep,
because other people see what you present to them. And if you're presenting what is not your true self to them, people see that. And why would you want to spend a lot of time with somebody that you think is fake?
exactly.
And so when you stop putting on that front, people start gravitating to you. And there was a quote that I don't know where I heard it from, so I can't give the credit, but I think it's like one of those cheesy quotes I learned a long time ago, and I put it on my like Facebook profile kind of thing,
Mhm.
when you do that.
Yeah,
But it goes, if you're open to everyone, you have the opportunity to be inspired by everyone. Yeah, I mean, it's that looking in the mirror, it's becoming your true self and just being open to anyone. And man, you just never know who you're going to run into by being a little bit open with everybody. So, yeah, great conversation to think about, Amber. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope it helps someone. If it just helps one person, I'll be happy.
That's,
I'll feel content.
you know, I love that you said that because that other project that we have worked on together in the past is a training platform for one of our distributors. And I was asked when we started that from a couple of my coworkers, what is your goal with this thing? How do you set a goal to, how do you set a goal for podcasting? Is it you want to have X number of subscribers? We want to be bigger than Joe Rogan. Like what metric, right? And
Yeah.
my comment back then 4 years ago was if we help one person a week times 52 weeks, that's our goal. If it was one person every week, there's a multiplier effect after that. And I think when you go into something like this with that mindset of just helping the person in front of you today or tomorrow or the next day, man, the snowball effect of that decision to help somebody in front of you today is just huge. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's incredible. So, Amber, along the lines of helping people, I love the fact that you mentioned the servant attitude, the servant heart, leadership, all the things that we would maybe think of that. Along with that mentality, and the reason I phrase it up this way is because I think there's good teams out there and I think there's bad teams out there. And I find that the more selfless you are and the more selfless team members you have, the more successful you tend to be as a team. But for Amber, from your perspective, based on your life experiences, what would you define as a successful team?
Well, I haven't worked with many teams during my career, but I do believe that a successful team is really one that has a strong but respectful and caring leadership first, because if the leader is not a good one, the team will also fall out. So I believe that it starts with this caring, respectful, but strong leadership, because I believe that's one of the main ingredients to this. I also think that communication, people need to have very good communication skills. That's also a huge player in this. And hard, consistent work. I'm a firm, great believer in hard work. So if everyone involved in this team, in this project, is putting all of their efforts, all of their love in all of their individual tasks, but also to the whole project or the whole thing that they are doing. If they do everything like they are supposed to do, selfless, caring, with respect, I think a team or whatever project that they are doing is going to be a success.
Uh, I I don't even need to comment on that. Like I no, I mean really, I'm not being funny. Like that's exactly. I guess the one thing I will say when you started talking about it, and I promise you folks, he doesn't pay me to talk about him on this podcast. I know I've said this guy's name 100 times, but when Amber said it starts at the top with leadership, and if you have if you find yourself in a position where you're not trusting the leadership on the team, red flag right there. If
Yep.
you are a leader of an organization or you're a leader of a team within an organization, go read the book Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And what an amazing perspective on leadership. I can't recommend that book enough. If you're aspiring to be a leader at some point, one, you probably already more of a leader than you think you are, but two, go read the book. Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last. If you guys want a free copy on Audible, send us an email, podcast@agrsol.com, and just say, hey, Scott, I would like my free copy of Leaders Eat Last on Audible. and give me your email address or phone number, and I will text it to you. Yeah, anytime. So, Amber, I think that teamwork discussion, I think leadership, I think that servant attitude, that servant heart. I loved your comments on mentors, and I'm going to give a shout out to your mom as well, because the impression that I've gotten from you since I've gotten to know you, tremendous level of respect for you just as a colleague and also as an individual. We talked about not putting on a front, right, or not being fake. Folks, what you see is someone who has struck me as genuine from the get-go. So, and that comes from somewhere. So I'm also going to give a shout out to Amber's mom. She's getting a lot of recognition and airtime on the podcast, and I love it. We might
Yeah,
have
me
to
too.
we might have to bring her in here at some point. I just really enjoyed our conversation today, but before I let you go, I love to ask people, okay, we've got to know Amber Ramirez a little bit. And folks, I promise you, this podcast, like, I'm not saying we couldn't have gotten another editor and publisher to do this. Like, maybe we could have, but it wouldn't have happened when it did. And I'm not sure if it could be any better. Like, if this is good, if you guys think this podcast is good, listening experience for sure. Like, we hit a home run, and it's not every time in business you step up to the plate and hit a home run on your first pitch. And we definitely did it with Amber.
Thank you.
So, what do you like to do for fun? Just kind of, yeah, share a little bit of that.
I love listening to music. That's something that really, it's kind of therapy for me, listening to music. I really enjoy learning new songs, discovering new bands, groups, artists. I love that. I'm very into rock, metal music, also rap. So I'm very happy when I get to know someone from any of these fields and I just start listening to their music. It's just incredible. It's really like therapy for me. It really is. So I really enjoy listening to music whenever I can. Not just as a hobby, also when I'm working, I listen to a lot of music. So it's one of my main
Okay.
things.
Okay. Before
Mm-hmm.
you go, before I have to ask you, I am not a music connoisseur like I was 10 years ago, but most of my music listening is stuck somewhere between 1972, which was before I was born, and the early 2000s in a bunch of different genres. You mentioned rock.
Yeah.
So who are your top three, top five rock bands?
Oof. Well, I love, there's a band named Breaking Benjamin.
Yep.
I love them. There's like one of the main bands that I started to listen to in this genre, and I love them. So
Yep.
maybe that's where it started. I know Linkin Park is more of like a metal kind of thing, but yeah, they're pretty much in my top five. I love their music as well. I like Arctic Monkeys. It's not too much rock, but they do have their rock era as well, and I love that. And some other bands like Paramore, ever since like maybe not their beginnings, but kind of in the middle of their career, I started to listen to them because I was learning English. So I started to listen to all of this English music and I love them as well. And another band that I really like and enjoy listening to is 30 Seconds to Mars.
Hmm.
So yeah, at least now those are like my top five. There's more. I listen to a lot of people's music, maybe not like whole sets of music, whole albums, but a lot of their music. But these
Yeah.
like top five, I kind of listen to all of their music because I really, really enjoy listening to them.
I recognized everybody on the list. I've listened to most of the ones on the list. And then you just gave me a big reality check that I'm a fair bit older than you are. You're 28, I'm 39.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I just remembered, yeah, all that 70s and 80s rock bands that I love, she didn't even mention. And you've probably heard of them, but yeah, probably missed you a little bit, but
Yeah.
all fun. So yeah, mine would be like some of the classics, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses. I really, really like Elvis Presley from years ago. I like a lot. I like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of that whole 60s, 70s, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, some of the rockabilly stuff from the southern US, Haggard and those guys, Willie Nelson, that kind of stuff, Bob Seger. But What tops it for me every time is Creedence Clearwater Revival. Man, I just can't, I can never get enough CCR. But anyway, so you like to listen to music. What else?
Reading. Reading and writing was kind of the way I started practice my English somehow. So I was not speaking English that much, but I was listening a lot and reading and writing. So that helped me a lot. And I still do that. I love to read. And also things that I like to enjoy that I do less is watching movies. And right now I'm very hooked watching Korean drama. So I'm very interested in Korean culture. I would love to learn their language. It's crazy and it's just incredible at the same time. So yeah, I'm watching a lot of Korean dramas at the moment. Maybe that will change in a few months because my taste always like changing depending on whatever is happening in my life. That's also another thing that I really enjoy doing.
All right. Rock and roll, Korean dramas, good book. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you coming on here because we talk on a regular basis. I mean, typically once a week as a podcast team, but we really haven't had an opportunity to do something like this. And now we're doing it in front of who knows, everybody. So it's been fun to get to know Amber a little better. Any parting words you'd like to leave for the audience?
Well, maybe not completely related to the ag industry because I mean that's the podcast is about, but I think the people I would love to tell them that they can do it. Whatever they're thinking, whatever they want to achieve, they can do it. They just have to put a bit of their heart, soul, a bit of effort, a bit of mind as well, and time. Patience is very important when we want to achieve anything. So putting in the effort and grading patiently for the great results after that hard work, because I also believe in long-term success and long-term gratifications. We can wait and we can make things happen. We just have to be a little bit patient for that.
Have you ever read a book called What If by Mike Rayburn?
No.
Okay, it's a very short read. I don't believe it's on audio. I mean, the book is it's short, but I love where you went with that because you can do it. And Mike uses what if as the challenge. What if you took that first step? So you can find him on YouTube. And one of the best videos is Green Eggs and Ham, Mike Rayburn. And he realized that you can actually play the guitar to AC/DC. I don't remember which song it is, if it's Hell's Bells or whichever it is, but he reads Green Eggs and Ham to AC/DC. And it's
Wow.
like, it's amazing. And then he took it a step further in his musical career and said, you know, many people would regard this as one of the greatest lyrical songs of all time. I have my own opinion of it, but Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen. He does Bohemian Rhapsody, which has how many different instruments in it? He does it on a
A ton.
guitar. He
Oh my
does it on
God.
a guitar, the entire
Wow.
song. And, so he uses that what if question as an inspirational calling, right? Which is exactly what you just challenged our audience to do. Thank you so much for doing it. And yeah, it's great to talk to you today, Amber. And I truly look forward to working with you for a long time here on Ruminate This. And we will be hopefully talking again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the time and for allowing me to be here. It's been great.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. If you found value in today's podcast, please hit subscribe and share. And we look forward to talking to you again next week.